Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Brett Davis coming to you, of course, from IQ Podcast in Coronado, California. I'm very honored, of course, today to have an amazing group of individuals that we're going to be talking to in a second. But before we start, I'd like to thank Attorney King for his sponsorship and friendship for everything he does and for believing in the storytelling of community and individuals. Also like to thank, of course, IB Fitness and Marina Teal and the great show she does here at IQ Podcast, all the way from Houston, Texas. I'd also like to say thank you to Saquon Casino, Chairman Cody Martinez, for his partnership and everything. We look forward to doing great events and doing bigger things with you in the upcoming year and beyond. And of course, thank you to, of course, our new sponsor who's kind of helping us with an event we're going to be doing May 7th. That's Bona Facetta. If you had a chance to go to Bona Facetta, they have a variety of Italian restaurants in San Diego. Very authentic, great food. Marco, we look forward to the partnership and growing your business. Of course, you already got enough business, but it never hurts to have a few more hungry people in your restaurant. So I'm very honored today, of course, to have Holocaust survivor Ben Midler and, of course, Sandra Scheller with me here today, who's going to be talking about an event coming up in Chula Vista at her exhibit at the Chula Vista Library. Ben, Sandra, nice to be here. Nice to see you guys today.
Hi, Brett. Nice to see you.
Ben, nice to see you.
Ben, you're looking great.
Thank you.
So you have this book that you did. It looks really interesting. I look forward to reading it. And thank you for the gift, by the way, The Life of a Child Survivor.
From Białystok, Poland.
Right. When did you write this?
In 1990.
Okay. Is there a way to get copies of this book somewhere?
Oh, on Amazon.
Yes, Amazon.
Very nice. Okay.
I use his book when I'm teaching in schools besides the book that I did. And just the other day, I believe, 200 students ended up.
A charter school on the south side ordered 200 books
copies
from the printer.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's a subject, I think, that, as you know, really, to this day, it's a very painful part of our history. That's just, it's probably in your mind, I would think, and I can't speak for you, but something that I don't even know how one would even describe the feeling or what you went through.
We hope it wouldn't happen again. With the war again today, we hope it wouldn't happen like the Holocaust happened. The Holocaust, should I start speaking?
Absolutely. This is your show, Ben.
This is for you.
This is your show. I'm just here to clean up.
I was 11 years old in 1939 when Germany, the Nazis took over the most part of Poland, and they took over Poland in 1 week. The only thing is they didn't stay long because they made an agreement with the Russian. The Russian will occupy Poland, eastern part, and the Germany will occupy the west part. They stayed a week, and the Russian moved in on September of 1939. The Russian moved in. They stayed there to June 1941. In June of 1941, Germany declared war on Russia, and they took over Poland. Not only Poland, they went almost all the way to Moscow. In 1941, when they came in, they made all the Jews to wear a yellow star on the clothes so they know they're Jewish. And after 1 week, they rounded up 5,000 people. Between them, my father and one of my uncles. They took them out to the forest and they killed them in mass graves. All the small towns around Białystok, they killed them too in a matter of weeks. In August of 1941, they put in all the Jews in 25% of the city in a ghetto. It was very crowded. Like, give you an example, my family was, at that time, it was my mother, myself, my brother and sister, and 2 more aunts with their kids. We were in one apartment, one room. In this apartment was 2 bedrooms. We had 4 families.
Wow.
And you had to go to work because we find out if you don't go to work, you don't get ration or food. So because of my father, when he was not at home, we decided to go to work in a tailor factory as a presser. and so we'll be able to get the rationing of food. In February of 1943, the German rounded up people what they didn't work, and they took them to places unknown. We find out later they took them to Treblinka. And over there it was not a labor camp, it was a crematorium. Any people that came was straight to the ovens. In August 16 of 1943, the Germany declared to liquidate the ghetto, only because was some Jews, especially young people, ages from 18 to 40 or 50, they decided to put up a resistance. They didn't have many guns. The only thing they tried to slow down from people to come in so they could run off to the forest. By burning the houses, we had a lot of wooden houses by the fence, so they burned the houses by the fence, and this way the German didn't come in for a day or so. My uncle, after the deportation, what happened in February 43, they decided today to do a hiding place because in Poland at that time was no basement, only cellars. In the cellar, they made an exit to the garden and they built a hiding place. All the families that ever lived in this apartment building moved in there. With the smoke, my uncle and his son and me, we went out to the yard to check what's happened. We thought maybe our house is on fire, and the Germans were waiting for us, and they marched us to outside of the ghetto of the city, call it Petrasha Field. Over there was train waiting for us, and they took us to places we didn't know where they took us. On the third day, some German with canes, and some canes got round handles. They took us by the neck, and they put us in 3 separate train cars. All the trains were cargo trains, not for passenger trains. In every car, they put in 150 people. Our 3 cars, on the way, they left them on a side railroad line, and the rest of the train went to Treblinka. The locomotive came back. They took the 3 cars and brought us to Majdanek. Over there was a camp, a labor camp, and a crematorium too. The German was standing with dogs and was screaming, "Get out, to get out." We get out, and they looked over. They even looked all over if we haven't got any jewelry or any pictures, and they put us in barracks with 2 bunk beds, 2 height, and the length of the bunk beds was the length of the barracks. Was almost between 200 and 300 people in a barrack. Every day they were counting us morning and at night. In the morning we were having Einsatz coffee with a thin slice of bread. At lunchtime was bouillon soup. Was soup, only we called it like bouillon soup. We didn't have no vegetables in there, no potatoes or nothing, just water. At night, we would get a slice of bread with margarine. Older people would try to save the bread for later, only never later came, because in this camp, people died before they could even eat the bread. One of the counting, they said everybody should tell us what they worked in the ghetto, and this way we'll know where to send them to work. My uncle, because he worked as an auto mechanic in the outside of the ghetto for the army, he told me I should say I'm an auto mechanic too. This way we'll be together. For some reason or another, or the angels of God or God himself, when he came to me, I got scared and I told him I was a presser. So he asked me, how come a young lad like you worked as a presser? So I told him my father died. I didn't tell him he got killed. My father died and I had to support the family. He liked the answer, and because they needed at that time tailors and shoemakers, because the war with Russia, in the winter was very cold, so they looked for tailors and shoemakers. from the 10,000 people that were at that time in the camp, they only took out 200. And I was between the 200. In 2004, I took my family to the camps, into my hometown, and all we found is a plaque in said is November of 1943. All the people were 10,000, around 10,000 people were in the camp, was taken out to the forest and got killed. So you see, I'm one, call it a miracle survivor. After they took us to another camp in Blizhin, because for the army they don't need to press any clothes. So I worked in a stone quarry for a full year until the front come close. The only thing during this time, a lot of people got typhus, and between them, I had typhus too. The people wherever kept the bread for later, it never came, because at night I would turn around and I see my roommate wherever lays next to me is already cold, and still he had the bread under his pillow. So I don't ashamed to say it. I took his bread and I used it. I ate it.
Ben, I have a question.
Yes.
I mean, your story is, I can visualize. I mean, I can visualize what he's saying as he's telling the story.
He's absolutely incredible, because when you've got students listening to Ben, he just takes you on
like
the journey.
it's like
a movie.
Yeah, it's like like you're transporting us there. I mean, in a very, very easy way, of course, because nobody could ever imagine what that experience was even like. How many camps were you in?
I was in 6 camps. The reason I was in 6 camps, my father was very hard worker. He was a milk distributor. He would go to the farmers, get the milk, and sell them to distributors in the city. He was working almost day and night, because he would get up 4 o'clock in the morning, came back at 8, and then we had a processing milk dairy plant, and he had to work inside. So he slept maybe for a couple hours during the day and 4 hours during the night. So I saw hard work didn't kill him, so I figured it wouldn't kill me. We'll see what could happen in another camp. So wherever they asked to go to another camp, I always volunteered. And this volunteering helped me this in my life today, because after Blizhin, I was taken to Birkenau. In Birkenau, the same thing. I was not afraid of hard work, so I worked to drain the area around the camp, because there was a lot of water standing there. We had to dig trenches to put in pipes to drain the water.
Did we name the camps? Did we name the camps?
No.
Or the camps?
The camps were Majdanek, Blizhin, Birkenau, Sachsenhausen, Ohrdruf, and Babelsberg.
How old were you or how young were you when you were tattooed in Auschwitz?
When I tattooed in Auschwitz, I was 16 years old. When I went to Majdanek, I was 15. I was born on June 27, 1928, and I'm 93 years old. I'll be 94 in June.
You look amazing.
My memory is still good.
No, but you even not just your memory. I mean, you move around better than people that I know that are 40 years old.
Ben, what is your number?
Can we see that number, Sarah? Is there a way?
Ben, what is the number?
B 2433.
Okay. Well, God bless you. Go ahead.
Brett, there's an interesting book called the Auschwitz Chronicles, and it's a thick book about this big, and it lists every day who came to the camp and who got tattooed and what happened in that period of time. So if anybody wants to do further research besides Ben's book that he wrote, if you can ever get your hands in the library on a book called the Auschwitz Chronicles, it's really incredible to see who came, where they came from. They don't mention the name. They mention just the number, when that number came.
The German kept good records. They got the archive. And from the archive, they even I got a piece of paper. It shows exactly which camp I was in. It's not what I'm saying. They got my number and they got the camps listed where I went through.
And this is so important because let's say that somebody tries to deny, and I hate to use that word, but if somebody denied, Ben can just take that and shove it in that person's face, as my mom did. That you have these documents that are so important and they need to be preserved.
Well, absolutely. Like you said earlier, we never want this to ever happen again. And we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the world
Yes.
after we hear a lot more of your story. Do you have one camp that stands out in your mind that's memorable than the others?
Two more things are memorable. One thing is in one of the camps in Nordruf, because I volunteered, they sent me to another camp in Babelsberg, to over there to clean the streets from Berlin after the Allied war bombing. Wherever was left over there got killed because the armies of the United States was very close. And before the German left, they killed all the inmates wherever were there. If I wouldn't volunteer to go to another camp, I wouldn't be alive today. And then one more thing stands out. In Babelsberg, when we were liberated in May 8 of 1945, because we were in a suburb of Berlin with a lot of houses, after liberation, everybody ran to the houses to get food, and they got dysentery, and they died. Because at this age of 17, I got the measles. And because you have measles, you get a lot of breakout red spot on your body. So they thought I got some inflammation. So they took me to the hospital. And that's why I'm alive today. That's why these two things stands out. And I'm thanking God, He saved me, and He gave me the opportunity to tell my story to everybody who wants to listen. In any time, wherever somebody wants, I'm ready.
So how did you survive?
I survived because I had willpower. After I left the hiding place, my family was still left there. And our family was very tight, very loved each other. And I thought, by staying, I got to stay alive to be able to see my family again. This gave me the strength and the power to do anything, to work anything, to move anything what I was asked. I even volunteered to take out at night. We couldn't go to the bathroom, so they had pails to take out the urine wherever made during the night. I volunteered to even clean them out. Nothing was hard for me, even today. Wherever I have something to do, I'm doing it.
So where do you get your strength after liberation?
The strength I got is I want to see my family, so I went to Poland. When I came to Poland, I didn't see my family. I didn't find them. So they told me there is counselors from the Jewish brigade, but they fought with together in a brigade of the English army against the Nazis. They stayed behind and they're looking for survivors wherever wants to go to Israel. Because at the time I was only 17 years old, I decided nothing for me left in Poland. I went to Israel. In Israel, I was, because I didn't finish high school even, I went to a school, agricultural school for 1 year in 1947. In 46, I immigrated with illegal immigration to Israel. The British waited for us, and they took us to a camp in Cyprus. They called Famagusta. Over there, they kept us until people could get the 1,500 to get into Israel. They had a quota of 1,500 people a month. So we had to wait. I was there 6 months. In 46, I went through 3 more camps in Israel until the time comes. And when in school, I was 1 year, and then the Prime Minister Ben-Gurion declared a Jewish state, and the 6 Arab countries fought against the Israeli, and I was drafted to the army. I was 2 years in the army, fought all kind of fronts, Jerusalem, the south side, in the Negev, all over. And in March of 1950, I got liberated because I knew a little about agriculture. So I was one of the organizers to organize a farmer's village with the boys wherever we were in the school. We knew some about farming. Only because I was organizer, in the 6 months from March to January, I met my wife. She's from Egypt. The Jews from Egypt had to leave because they were the Egyptian was very much against the Jews at that time because
Really?
and because they had French, their father had French citizen, so they're allowed to leave. All the people wherever was born in Egypt couldn't leave. Jews couldn't leave Egypt. They left Egypt in 1949 through Italy because they couldn't go straight to Israel, and then they come to Israel. I met my wife. She was in a school for girls, and we were in a village of farmers, and we were looking for girls because we were only boys. So then I met my wife. In the 6 months with dating, I married, not only me, even her sister married my friend.
Wow.
We had a double wedding on January 16, 1951.
Were you thinking about being getting into the dairy industry at that time because you were around the farms? Because you seem like farms seem to be something you really like.
I was thinking I couldn't stay in the farms because at that time I had a daughter, and she couldn't sleep at night because the Arabs would come to the canyon and was doing shooting and try to steal anything what they could get hold of them wherever was outside of the house. So I left for Haifa, for the city. Over there, I worked in a milk dairy. They called it, over there they call it Nuva. I worked there for 4 years. And then my mother's parents had 11 kids, 3 in Argentina, 3 in the United States, and 5 in Poland. From all the families in Poland, and from my father's side, 5 families, but they lived in a small town outside of Białystok, Sokolke. Nobody left. I'm only a survivor. Because they find out I'm the only survivor, so they want me I should come to the United States. So in 1959, I came to the United States. I still, because I didn't have no profession, I was not a tailor, I was not a shoemaker, and I was no mechanic. So I went and I worked in a milk dairy for 18 years.
Wow.
After working for 18 years, my son-in-law and his father owned 2 auto parts stores. So my son-in-law was very dedicated to his family. He saw his father got out of trouble for a long time. He asked him, why don't we get Ben to work as a manager and you'll be our replacement for vacation and be the buyer. He agreed. So I went to work 2 months in his store. I learned how to sell parts for cars, looked up the catalogs to know how to answer to mechanic wherever they want asking for. And after 4 months, his father died. When his father died, he came to me and he asked me, would you like to buy the store? I said, sure, why not? So my wife came to me and asked me, you sure you could do it? I said, there's no such a thing if I could. I have to do it. That's my motto. Nothing is out for me. No matter where I go, what I do, I always try to do my best. After 5 years being in the auto parts, I had to leave the auto parts because 2 things. One thing was I had a bad case of asthma with bronchitis. The weather in Chicago is very cold and windy, and I couldn't breathe. After I would work, I was there in the auto parts store. I came home, I had to lay down to catch my breath. And then they find out this I got prostate cancer. So when you have prostate cancer, you have to have a couple months off. And I couldn't find a manager to manage my store. So I sold it. And they told me I should move to a warmer climate. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to stand out another year or 2 the way I can't breathe because I was wheezing all the time. So that's why I came to San Diego. I lived in Rancho Bernardo, and I worked still in auto parts store, only for other auto parts stores for 5 years, and then I retired.
So Ben, let me ask you, and you lived such an interesting life. It was never boring, was it? You always had something interesting going on, always.
always making for me interested.
Mhm.
So what needs to be remembered about the Holocaust? What do people need to take from the lessons that you're sharing with us?
Never forget the Holocaust, what could happen again. Never forget, because even today, with the war what's going on between Ukraine and Russia, we don't know what could happen. And we don't know, life is getting, precious life is getting lost, and we don't know where it's going to go. So keep in mind and speak up. Don't wait like people waited during World War II. The Nazis took over all the countries from Europe because nobody wanted to stand up. I'll give you one example. This you can't give in. One of the ministers, foreign ministers from Britain, allowed Germany to take over part of Czechoslovakia because over there lived a lot of Germans. By giving him in, he gave him the opportunity. There's nothing will stop him, and that's why he started the war. He went to take over the people wherever lived there. He had an excuse. My German people live there, and I want to liberate them. And that caused the World War II. He took over Czechoslovakia, France, Belgium, Netherlands, and then came even Poland. He took over. The only thing is, if it wasn't for Pearl Harbor in 1941, they made even United States to go in to war, and that's why we are alive today, because America liberated a lot of lands, a lot of people, and they're alive today, not only living in the United States, living in all the lands wherever were occupied by Germany Nazis.
You know, it's interesting, Brett. You listen to Ben, and you could take college courses and try to understand World War II and what Ben goes through. And it's going to take you maybe 2 years. This man can give you the information so smoothly in a period of time where you, again, are on this journey. That's why I like to interview survivors.
Sure.
And not only think, even with my age, I never gave up. I still studying. I went to a state college to learn Microsoft Word in my age, and still I got a computer. I still got a cell phone. I got everything.
That's great. It never stops. You keep
Never stops.
You always keep learning.
Always keep learning.
So you have an event coming up. Sure, talk to us a little bit about your exhibit at the Chula Vista Library for people who are not aware.
Excited. Yes, we have our Ruth Remember Us the Holocaust. Ben got to see the exhibit, and
we were there for your big shindig a couple years ago before the pandemic.
And then the pandemic hit, and I remember talking to Ben and Ben saying, "Don't you dare give up. You keep it going." And then when the library told me, that's when I came up with the idea that we can do our version of a podcast on YouTube where people can see the individual stories. So Ben is my mentor. I will tell you that, you know, when I lost Ruthie, there was a real emptiness, and to be able to reach out to people that have really mentored me and make sure that I do the right thing. So on April 21st at 5:30 to 7:30, I will have a presentation, a video presentation of the 13 Holocaust survivors that came to the South Bay. After the event, it will be questions and answers with Ben Midler and Ursula Israelski. The difference between the two, Ursula was in hiding the whole time.
Wow.
And Ben was in camps. So this is during Passover, the 8 days of Passover. So we have this event that we have made open to the public. Normally we have food at our events, but because it's Passover, we're keeping it pretty humble. And again, I'm so grateful to the people of Chula Vista, the city of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas of Chula Vista, Joy Watley from our library, and our cultural arts department, and even Sprouts. Ron Cohen.
You got Ron Cohen of Sprouts. You've got the city of Chula Vista. You have the public library support. You have our support too, by the way.
I know I do.
Always,
absolutely.
Because we believe in the vision is to eventually have a Holocaust museum in San Diego that's world renowned.
You know, we just walked across the street before we came to the to our podcast, and Ben and I were talking, and we look at this piece of land where there's grass, and I look at Ben and I'm like, Ben, why can't there be a museum here? Why can't we have one even in Coronado where we're looking out over the bay? There's a lot of grass there, but if there was something that we could look at the ships that come in and out because of
Sure.
our World War II. Ben taught me it's okay to have a dream. Now it's a matter of following through. And I do have somebody I can talk to on that level, which is so important.
Seaport Village is not a bad idea either.
I know. Yeah, I talk to you.
Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Yes, I got a nice family now. I got 3 daughters.
Beautiful.
I would only say this: my oldest daughter is already age 70.
What?
70.
He's 93.
Sorry.
This is what a beautiful 93-year-old looks like. Okay.
I hope I can say the same thing and introducing, this is my 70-year-old daughter. And I look like I'm younger than she is.
And I got 6 grandchildren, and all my grandchildren thanking me every time we have a birthday. They say, we learn a lot from you. And if you want to read the email from one of my grandsons, you are welcome. Mentioning all the time, this, he can believe, I'm the foundation of his life.
Of course you are. I mean,
And mine too.
I got to say, I think you're probably, everybody that hasn't heard of you or met you before, myself included, I think you have a lot of new supporters.
Thank you.
You know, I think you're an amazing man. Did you want to read something to us, or are we good? Is there something there you want to read, or are we good?
I want to read something.
Okay, go ahead. I figured there was something you had to say. So far, everything you said has been fascinating.
Fascinating, isn't it? Truly. Wait, and look.
I want to say what my grandson wrote to me. I wanted to send you a quick note wishing you the happiest of birthday. I wish you could be there today and all the days celebrate with you, as each of us marks such a special milestone in the example you set for your kids, grandkids, and all the grandkids. We've always been the emotional center of this family and the rock of strength that has shown the way us to go about our lives. We probably don't say it enough to you directly. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do for the whole family, for the person you are, for what you are preserved to, and the inspiration you are to all of us. From a very young age, I can remember you pulling me in close in an understanding tone, telling me little parts of advice and wisdom. We don't yet to do it often enough these days, but the chats we do have been some of the most impactful in my life. Back then through today, so I can thank you to enough for always being the wisest, the most loving person I know. More than a knowing grandpa, I hope you have a big smile on your face when you're celebrating your birthday this year. I hope you take the time to look back in your life and realize how truly amazing of a man you are and how incredible powerful of a lesson that your story has been for all of us, our family, and truly the world at large. When you think about how your story has traveled to Israel, Poland, Germany, most importantly, you've shown us, all of us, how to build a strong, coherent, loving family and support one another as family members strive to be a better version of themselves every single day. For that, I'm forever grateful.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing that. It's very nice to meet you, Ben.
Thank you.
I look forward to reading your book, getting to know you better. And
I'll see you on the 21st.
There you go. And the 21st. What's the website also?
Our website is rememberustheholocaust.org.
Well, I appreciate both of you taking time to come to our tiny little office and tell us this wonderful story of challenging and overcoming things it's beyond anything of this earth. It sounds like hell to me. And I appreciate your story and appreciate you as a person, because we must not forget the Holocaust.
And we must continue to talk about it.
Exactly, because not talking about it and forgetting is how you forget. And I appreciate you both for being here.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, you heard a great interview today, and would support any way that we can both of these individuals, because they're great and they're both very valuable to the history of the Holocaust. God bless them both. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope there were some things that maybe you learned from this. And if you have any other ideas of future shows or any idea for Holocaust shows, contact me at brettdavis2020@yahoo.com. Any way we can support and help Sandra, of course, with her exhibit, and help her build eventually her Holocaust museum in San Diego, because I see the same vision she does. I see this gigantic world-known Holocaust museum, and I see Sandra being the one that makes that happen. And any way we can help in a small way, we would love to do that. Everybody take care. God bless. Be nice to each other. And remember, yippee-ki-yay.